Hello, everyone. Welcome to Yellow Socrates. This is Dr. J.
This is Mr. Yo.
And I am Circo.
What we're gonna talk about today is should we value our convenience or should we value conservation of environment? So, what do you guys think?
It's actually like a really hard topic to be honest, because how our societies form. Like our, if you look at our history and all that. Um,
History, yeah. Can you explain a little more about the history you're talking about?
I would say I would blame this on this wasteful society. Basically, we're producing a lot of waste, which is affecting the environment very much, right? I think this stemmed from industrial revolution in America.
Mm-hmm.
So
Hmm.
what happened back then was that they made factories, right? They made a lot of stuff, a lot of products, like various, you know, of variety, guns, chairs,
Hmm.
all the
Just mass
thing you need,
producing
right?
everything. Yeah, yeah.
Right?
But then at that time, they didn't have a consumer that could buy it because it was the start of the industrial revolution, right? Everybody's just self-sufficient. They're making their own food. They're making their own chair with the wood they have, right? So nobody's buying that. So what they did was that they tried really hard to find someone to sell. So they went to Japan, Asian countries, European countries, right?
You're talking about Western uh, industrials
Yeah, yeah.
entrepreneurs, right? Okay. Yeah.
And the solution that they made was this culture of consumerism,
Mm-hmm.
right? So basically, what they do is instead of improving the quality or like making a better, basically a better product with the money you have, right?
Mass production. You're talking
Yeah,
about,
but
right?
they shifted to mass production and made everything consumable or disposable, which has short life. Currently, right now, even phones are disposable, right?
Yeah, they
A
have
lot of
really
people,
short lifespan.
yeah.
I think. I
It's not
think.
like Nokia. You use it for like 5 years, still works.
Yeah, you can use it as a hammer.
Yeah, I mean, those were very durable phone. But now we're even shifting, even the electronics, you have to change them like every year, every 2 year, or else it's
Right.
gonna get slow. Even Apple said that, oh yeah, we did tinker with the firmware to make it, make other phones slower. They kind of admitted that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, in because of that, a lot of things gets thrown out, right? Everything has low shelf life. Food, um, electronics, even clothing stores are making disposable fashions, right?
Right. So because of that, we
We
basically
are
produce a lot
producing a
and just
lot.
dispose a lot,
Yeah,
which is harmful to environment.
yes. I think it stemmed from that, like mass producing, the thing is that it also offers you some convenience, right?
Convenience, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Because
It's really convenient to use disposable utensils, for example. I don't want to bring my fork everywhere and wash them after I eat a
exactly,
meal. Yeah.
that's my take on why this kind of culture happened, like this wasteful culture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would agree. Like to add to what Circo had said, I think the main idea for, consumerism and capitalism is basically like a game of costs. And
Right.
the idea that, conserving the environment, that idea has never really sunk in as a cost. It's never been a factor. and no one really has thought about that in the aspect of like a utilitarianistic reason for the good of everyone else. It's more very individualistic and for your own profits. So there's a lot of companies, there's a lot of factories that kind of just put that in the wayside. If they can make the most profit by creating this factory that might endanger their surroundings and environment around them, they're okay with it, as long as they fit the regulations. But I think we've reached a point right now that, in the past, maybe that was the only way to advance, but now we reach a point where we could get both convenience and conservation of environment at the same time. And we really need to, have this idea that, there's resources are limited in like the earth we live in. We
Right.
can't survive for, billions of years to come. There's gonna be an end. And the mindset I think we should have now, and that most people are having now, which is a good thing, is kind of architecturing a future where we're thinking about future generations. And it's really good now that we're kind of thinking about these things. One example is, the idea of introducing electric cars into the market as opposed of
Yeah.
to like gasoline cars.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. Originally, what I've heard is that it was the technology was always there. The problem is that electric cars and gasoline cars initially. I'm going into specifics here, but back in the day, electric cars, the technology was there, but it just couldn't go for a far amount of distance.
Yeah.
That's why gasoline cars won out the battle. And that's
And
why,
it wasn't very efficient.
right,
And
exactly,
gasoline engines were way stronger too.
exactly, way
Mm-hmm.
stronger. So, like at the time, they only considered that. They didn't consider the impact it would have on the environment. Um, understandably so. But now we have the technology that we can use renewable and sustainable energy to achieve the same amount of kind of accomplishments. So I think we're seeing a slight change right now in mindset. We're having this kind of utilitarianistic mindset, which I think is very important.
Okay. So when we do the research for the new technology you're talking about,
Yeah.
we probably use petroleum sources, right? Which is also harmful to environment.
Hmm.
Current. What do you mean by that? Like we use?
I mean, like the technology isn't just coming out of nowhere. We have to put some resources in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You gotta build some buildings. You gotta have inputs,
Okay.
and
Hmm.
that also consumes basically something bad for environment.
Obviously, that's more like an opportunity cost, though. Like
Opportunity. Okay, opportunity
something you
cost.
can sacrifice to get something better.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's like exploring out of the cave. That's dangerous, and it requires someone to have more resources than you know just staying in a cave, right? But there's a
Right.
potential out there that we can actually
Uh-huh.
harness it and find a new solution or like find new resources and actually
So
gain from it.
that sounds like uh, balance between convenience and environment is really important, right?
Yeah.
But
Right.
then where do we draw that line?
Mm.
You
That's
Well,
see,
that's really
you.
hard right now to say because
Mm-hmm.
like right now our society is built on this economic system of consumerism. Just buy it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
just
mhm,
buy it, use it. It's convenient, and if you don't need it, just throw it away. And also
Right.
with energy situation, like since it's easier for us to use coal and petroleum to power our, houses, cars, we just use them, right? It's very
Yeah.
convenient. It's just,
Yeah. It's almost being
people
used up.
almost forget about the consequences because they're just,
mhm,
they don't have to worry about anything
mhm.
by using this thing.
They know the consequences. They just don't
They
feel.
just ignore it basically. I guess they do know it.
They don't realize how crucial that is.
Yeah, it's
It, yeah.
slowly accumulating the
Right.
effect of it. So maybe
Mhm.
we're like, to um you get used to it, like the frog experiment, you just put the frog in a
Wait,
hot
what?
water, it just
Yeah.
jumps out. But um
If you
if you
slowly heat it
slowly
up.
heat it up, it just dies in the water, right? Just
Hmm.
get cooked basically.
Yeah, I think that mindset where it's so long term right now, it's not immediate effects. People just ignore it, you know. They don't
Hmm.
really think about the future generation. They just care about right now.
Yeah, basically.
Exactly, because like if they die, it's still not gonna affect them until their death. But like that's the
It
mindset
might,
that we
it
shouldn't
might.
have. I think that's big. It's like
Yeah, I think what we think right now is that
like
whatever we do doesn't affect our generation, but the next
exactly.
generation.
But
So
thinking
yeah.
about the future and the future generation, like that's some kind of altruistic mindset that's really hard because it's against our biology, really. But we should have this. This is the only way that humanity can really have a better percentage of
Hmm.
survival.
But
Yeah,
at the same time, we need some technologies and develop more convenience for our uh, our kids, our next generations.
I think it's happening
Uh,
slowly. It's
yeah,
happening slowly.
I
Um,
really do think like we reach a point where we really can get both of best worlds.
we
Like,
can like try to get, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
definitely
like
we can develop something that can,
exactly.
you
Hmm.
know.
We have so much proof of concept too, and I mean like just the idea that it's the hard thing is it's been integrated in our society, at least for capitalism, that these things like for gasoline, let's say, like what Circo was saying, how convenient it is. It might just be convenient because it's integrated. It's not necessarily that convenient if you compare it to like renewable energy. Like if you have like solar panels in your house, or if you have like
But those are
I might
costly though.
Yeah, it's not very efficient yet.
Yeah, it's
that
not efficient yet
okay,
either.
now I sound like a proponent of Elon Musk, like a sponsor of this, but if you actually do the math, like it does pay itself out and it's cheaper in the long run. It's just that kind of
The long
initial
run.
fear
Yeah.
that we're kind of like the first ones to do it because no one around us does it.
Mm.
And like those electric charging stations are
Hmm.
like only recently expanding. So it is convenient right now just to go to a gas station, fill up your car with gas.
Right.
There's more support for it.
Yeah, but
But there's
I
like a shit. Yeah.
I
Sorry.
think
Yeah. Uh-huh.
the technology is not quite there for us to consider convenient. Let me give you like a statistics about U.S. electricity sources, right? So
Mhm.
basically, 62 or almost 63% of fossil fuel. All the electricity generated in 2017
Mhm.
was, 60% of it was 63% of it was from fossil fuels, right?
Mhm.
And nuclear power was 20%.
Hmm.
Renewable 17%, right?
Mhm.
You know how much solar power is? It's only 1.3%.
Mhm.
It kind of tells you like which one's um more convenient. I would say it's because we already made this infrastructure where all the cars are ran by gasoline. All the
Right.
generators are
Mhm.
gasoline. All
Hmm.
the you know power plants are ran by coal, which is very
Mhm.
abundant
Mhm.
everywhere, right?
So that statistic is telling you how much the percentage of that particular energy is existing right now. Is that what you're
In
saying?
2017.
But
2017. That kind of
but I
means
mean,
that we're
there's a bias there that like that's because it's not supported as much. Like let's say, like if you, they said that if you have solar panels as big as Texas, right? Like just
Okay.
hypothetically, you could power the entire world. It's just the idea that it's not
Is okay.
popularized, that it's such a low percentage. It doesn't mean that it's inefficient. It's just that, not many people really do it. There's not much solar power compared to like nuclear or like natural gases.
Mm.
So,
I
I
I
mean,
I don't know. I think for me, I think it tells us that we
mhm.
are um already convenient with the society that we're living in right now. So it's really
Right,
hard
right.
to like
Okay.
I do agree.
shift
Yeah.
from it.
Hmm.
Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, exactly. I agree that it's easier to just go out, like charge your, car with gas, and there's just so much embedded infrastructure that we have that support like a natural gas. And it's, but I think it, like the government especially is trying to shift towards more like sustainable energy. Like there's
Yeah.
rebates on electric cars now. There's a lot of like tax reduction for renewable energy, like
Mm-hmm.
for,
Mm.
and they're supporting solar panels. So I think there's a big effort into trying to switch, and the inefficiency might be a little bit biased because there's just not much data out
Studies,
there to.
technologies to try. That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah,
That's true.
exactly. So yeah, I think it is exactly how you said, where we're kind of built into this society where it's kind of hard to try something new, right?
So you are basically saying that we need to reduce the use of fossil fuels, right?
Yeah, that's just one of the like
Right.
specific arguments for the idea like convenience
Mm-hmm.
versus the conservation of
I
energy
mean,
or environment.
that kind of happened with nuclear power too, though. We thought that's gonna be like the new thing. I mean, it is kind of a new thing
Hmm.
still, kind of. I think they made this in 1970s,
Hmm.
basically. I mean, it takes like 20% of the power that
Okay.
we're producing. Um, but then nuclear power seems greener because it doesn't emit anything.
Hmm.
But there's
Well, what do you mean
always
it
like
doesn't
a,
emit anything?
it doesn't emit like carbon footprints. Basically, it doesn't
It does have waste,
put
but
out
it does
stuff on the
just seal the
atmosphere.
waste in the ground.
Hmm.
That's true.
It
Like,
doesn't, yeah,
Nuclear
it's
waste
so
not
in
that
general.
harmful compared to petroleum because
I
it's
mean,
not
we don't know
released
yet though.
directly to. Well, yeah, we don't know yet. People think, some experts think that it's still safer than fossil fuels
Yeah, but
because we
think about it
contain the waste in
this way. We thought
containers.
nuclear power would be some green power source, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And it took us like what, 40 years
Hmm.
to actually accept it widely, to have just 20% of the electricity source, like power plant, right?
Hmm.
So like it's gonna take so long for us to actually, use solar thermal energy or photovoltaic energy to harness this energy, right? Electricity sources.
Hmm.
So I think, I what I'm trying to say here is that it's gonna take a long time, you know. So we need to know what's convenient and like
Uh-huh.
how much we need to sacrifice our convenience to, shift to actually conserve the environment,
Hmm.
right?
Right,
But
right.
Mr. Yo is saying that we don't need to sacrifice any of convenience, right?
We are
Well,
sacrificing it
I'm
because we
saying
need
that.
to change the government about the laws about, you know, um, cars. They
But
still don't have enough regulation for electric cars right now, even though there's Tesla and there's hybrid.
yeah, I
We
see
still
your
don't
point,
have
but
anything.
so Mr. Yo is basically saying that we can develop more technologies that we can save both environment and improve our convenience, right?
In
I
the long term,
look.
it would, but right now, how people are thinking is that it's not gonna be convenient.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
I
can you
think.
explain? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, wait. Sorry. Sorry. You want him to explain first?
Huh? Oh, you
No,
can
no.
go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. I think that the technology isn't really the problem. I think, look, like if you think about it, like Tesla and Solar City, this is made by one man, like one, not one guy, but like like the push from one guy, right? This is like
Hmm.
his two companies, Elon Musk's two companies, and he just had a group of engineers for each that pushed kind of this idea that we could, use sustainable energy in a very efficient way. And we created this like ionic battery that can store, like that was the main, one of the biggest problems. Like, how do we store that much energy? Um, so if there's a much more push and much more bigger market into investigating and researching for these, I think like it's gonna be very soon that we can see so much more technology to support the idea that you really don't have to give up either one. You could have both convenience and conservation of energy. I mean, just logically thinking, like if you can create renewable energy with electricity, you can power like, if you can first power a car, you can power like almost anything, right? It's just depend on how big the battery is to store it. I mean, that's just
Yeah,
kind of like a logical step. So, I mean, this is very specific to kind of gas versus electricity here, but
Right.
this is for
It could be
like
anything.
anything.
yeah, could
Yeah.
be
And
anything. Could be anything.
yeah, I think the idea that we're slowly realizing how important the environment is, that is pushing this really and kind of making it more
I
accepted.
definitely think that uh, we need more push. I agree with that, and I also think that all the push is getting ignored mostly because of like
Hmm.
legislations. Like
Yeah,
companies are
lobbyists. Yeah,
made so that they make profit, right?
exactly.
And
Yeah.
they're already doing well, or big
Hmm.
corporation who is, you know, actually the big players of the economy are already
Right.
doing well in the system right now.
Hmm.
So, um, for example, like cigarettes, everybody knows that it's really bad for you. It
Hmm.
kills you slowly but surely,
Hmm.
right? But it's still sold. It's still
Uh-huh.
sold, even though there's all the ads about smoking is bad. Like
Hmm.
it's not fixing anything. Like I mean, there
Well,
are less smokers, but
well, like an example there is like Juul, right? This huge
Yeah.
phenomenon of using like vapes
yeah,
and
yeah.
e-cigs, which is really popular now. I think that transition now where everyone's kind of conscious now. It might be particular because we're in California. It's very like very environmental friendly,
I
but
guess.
it is like kind of like a template for you know how the world is gonna be. I feel like in the future. So
Mm.
it like there's a lot of changes that we can slowly see happening and more consciousness towards that, which is good. It's just I feel like maybe making that more explicit might help the process, expedite the process. Just spread the idea that we're all living in one place,
Mm.
one Earth with limited resources, and we need to consider this as one of the costs now. Even as a capitalistic mindset, the environment is a cost now.
Hmm.
It
Yeah.
affects us and
So
everyone around us.
so you guys are talking like the whole level of the whole globe. But what about the individual levels? Should we pursue our convenience, or should we try to use reusable bags? Like, do you guys use do you guys even try
I
to?
try. I try to use
Yeah, of
reusable
course.
bags for
Right.
groceries and
Exactly.
all that. Yeah.
Hmm.
I think
Yeah.
that's like a start
Yeah, I think it
that
starts
you
from
can do.
individual,
Yeah.
right? And I try to buy, like if I see like two different containers, one says like it's fully recyclable, like natural, like I'll just choose that, you
Even
know.
though that product is more expensive than the other one.
Yeah, I would say so. For me at least, I would just consider that as a very important,
Uh-huh.
you
But
know.
many households, what if they can't
Yeah.
afford
Yeah, that's
that
the thing.
cost?
That's the problem, right? Like I
Yeah.
want us to push so that it's so commercially available. Like it shouldn't be a luxury to save the environment.
Well, to some households, it's luxury to,
Yeah,
right,
I'm
to save
Right
the
now
environment.
it is. Yeah.
So
it,
should they pursue that, or should they just, I mean, their
well
lives
for
matter
that
too.
case,
So
I want them not to even think that there's a decision there. I want the people who have the ability to push for this commercialization of environmental friendly um, proponents so that like things like that there's no luxury tag to it. It's kind of ridiculous that you have to pay a fee to conserve the environment. It should be a
Yeah.
given. So that's what I'm trying to say.
I
I
think it should
but
be
agree that
like,
but the reality isn't like
yeah,
that.
reality
In
isn't like
reality,
that.
right,
it
but
is
it is
actually a luxury.
shifting. It is
It is
shifting, and
shifting,
I
yeah.
think
I
the
think
only
it is
thing
too.
that we can do is, like I said, to push it and expedite the process.
Yeah,
We
Uh-huh.
need
as
more push.
individuals, we as
Yeah.
a group, need to push this idea forward explicitly. Like people might not really understand the value. They might just be, following kind of the trend. But once they do understand, I feel like it'll be very easy to push for these new changes because in the end like people are resistance or has this resistance to change. They always choose the least resistance path, and this is a change,
Hmm.
right? So there's an action that's needed to have this outcome, but I think it's very valuable.
Mm,
Not for maybe not for this generation, but for future generations, we need to preserve our environment.
yeah.
Then, should we? Do you guys think we should reduce the subject which consumes all the materials? For example, should we? So the population is growing up so rapidly,
Yeah.
and it's people like humans are consuming creatures.
Yeah.
So should we regulate population just to save the environment?
That's really that's really a hard question.
What do you
Not
guys
really.
think?
I think, I mean, we are already kind of doing that though, right? With condoms and all those
But
birth
that's not
control
for the
pills.
environment. I'm talking about in order to save the environment, should we regulate? Because you know how, many experts say that the materials are gonna be all used up in, I don't know, 2050, some 60. It varies,
That's
but yeah,
that's
that's
not.
why there's so many sci-fi movies like going into the universe looking for
Right,
different planets.
Hmm.
right.
So in this finite planet of materials, should we regulate the
Wow.
consumers?
You know who you sound like in a way? Like it feels like we're going back to Thanos. Like this
Yeah.
is exactly exact
Yeah,
thing,
it can be related to that.
right? Do you wanna how to go at it, Circo first?
Personal take. I don't think it should be. It's a personal freedom, right? To have
Right, right.
kids,
It's just personal opinion. Yeah, exactly.
to have a family, to have your
Hmm.
name
Mhm.
passed down, or
Yeah.
to raise a kid. It's a personal freedom, so I think it'll be really hard to control that you know, in America, for example, which
Hmm.
where freedom is the most valuable thing.
Hmm.
Okay, at least in this
Um,
country, yeah.
Hmm.
But if you think of the whole level, whole globe level.
Global level, I would say it's still a problem because isn't it kind of weird to see one species just all over the world and you see them everywhere? You know, it's not like let's go
I
to the
don't quite
forest,
understand
right?
that.
Let's go to the
Yeah.
forest. You don't just see deers all the time. You see like rabbits and deer. There are a variety of life forms, you know.
Okay.
But
So
on Earth,
what's your
it's
point?
mostly just humans consuming everything. I feel like.
Yeah,
So
humans are the main consumers.
I do think that overpopulation is a problem,
Mm-hmm.
but it conflicts with like realism and a realist and a idealist kind of situation. You know, it's ideal to like promote personal freedom,
Hmm.
but in reality, we might run out of all the resources we have in like what 40 years? You said
Right.
2060.
It
Right.
It is a
varies.
scary thing, right?
Hmm.
Because
It is.
what are we gonna do? Like,
Uh,
there's nothing that we can eat or make something out of. You know,
So are you saying that we have to respect the freedom
I'm
before?
leaning more towards that
Okay.
because that's our society right now.
Okay.
But if you think about the future generation, they
Mm-hmm.
might not even have the luxury to have this, you know, talk basically.
Yeah,
So
they might
it's
say,
kind of
"Oh,
conflicting, you know.
yeah, they might say, "Oh, wow, our like father generation, mother generation had too many kids, and now we suffer. I mean, we blame them." They may say that,
I mean, that's
right?
already happening right now, right? Baby
Oh yeah,
boomers,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
they're like, oh,
Yeah,
why do we have to like support these people?
yeah, yeah. Basically, the same thing can happen, in a few decades. So, what about you, Mister Yo? What do you think? Should we
I'm gonna
regulate?
cheat here and say we don't have to really. Okay, so I'm being very optimistic and saying that
Okay.
um by the time this will be a problem, like perhaps we're facing the early stages right now, but by the time where this is a problem for extinction of humanity, I'm hoping we have become a multi-planet species.
Like go to
Okay,
Mars,
that's
SpaceX.
a little too like
So no,
far.
that's the thing. I think the idea that we think it's so far away and that
Uh
it
huh.
can't happen kind of makes it so irrelevant and so, you know, not in our scope of what we can do. But I feel like we can definitely reach that point, and that's where kind of the mindset is very important. I think most people, it's really hard to have that mindset where we can actually make a change for the greater of humanity. And that's like one of the reasons why I respect Elon Musk so much. Like for his idea of commercializing spatial exploration, just to um, have a better probability that we'll become multi-planetary species,
Mm-hmm.
and we won't have to worry about resources. We could get both best of both worlds, where we have the freedom of
Okay.
having as many kids as we want.
That's
And
really optimistic view,
right, but
but
I would
it's
rather have kind of a
right.
futuristic
Uh huh.
advancement idea than having to compromise,
Mm.
because once you think about the compromise, you already kind of gave up on that idea. And I think,
Because we don't know yet. We don't know for sure.
yeah, I
But
think
we
that's
know that
where.
we'll have to live in this planet for a long time.
Mhm.
So that would be our priority.
Okay, if you want to talk about very realistically, if we
Uh-huh.
do if we do the enough amount of kind of the takes to, you know, like for instance, resources with food, we can genetically modify. like actual like organisms for crops. So we can put in an input of X, but get like multiple factor of return Y, right?
So we
Or just
can,
get so much.
yeah.
So with technology, we can cover a lot of the things of the resources that are being
Mm.
wasted with like it's simple input function, and then you get more with the multiplier. So I mean, like things like that is very realistic. We could do that, but resources is gonna run out for sure. But I think at that time, I can think that it's not unrealistic to say that we would have technology to make space exploration commercialized. I mean, we already have SpaceX right now, and just a better push, maybe even make it not a government factor, but like almost like a private factor where different companies can actually enter
Mm.
this market. There's more SpaceXs, that means lower the cost, and then make it more possible for anyone kind of to just go to Mars. And then if we make kind of a, like the movie Martian, we can make some kind of sustainable
We go
life
to
form
Mars.
there. Yeah,
Terraform
exactly.
the Mars.
Yeah, I feel like that's not really that far out. That's my opinion, but
Okay, yeah, I
I think
respect your opinion. Thank
yeah,
you.
I mean, I do agree with that in some sense. I would say. It's always good to look at the future and prepare for it, and actually do something that'll be good for your future.
hmm
But right now, the society is so caught up in the present, I would say,
yeah,
that
it's
like they
very
kind of
yeah.
ignore
hmm
that,
hmm
right, over convenience.
Exactly.
It's weird.
Uh-huh.
It's weird.
Yeah, yeah. I think like this might go into a tangent, but in our biology, it's kind of meant that we're selfish. And to have this mindset for the greater of humanity is very altruistic. It's against our biology. It's
Mm.
really hard to really have this mindset. And it's something you just need to practice and develop. And
yeah.
Yeah,
it's very important
Well, yeah.
to have.
but I do think
Especially,
that we are capable of transcending that, though. Like,
yeah, I do.
actually,
I agree. I agree.
you know,
I
um,
agree.
act out of altruism.
hmm
It's just I heard about this society, this primitive society, right? Where they don't care about the individual. I mean, they do care about themselves, but it's more like, for their tribe basically.
hmm
So their society is like, um, like they don't care whoever kids, you know, this kid belong to. Oh, this is Dr. J's kid. I'm not gonna, care about this kid. Just let him run in the river, and if he washes down to the ocean, I don't
Yeah, so
care,
you're
right?
basically saying they have society kids, not individual
Yeah, it's
parents'
like,
kids.
yeah,
Yeah.
everybody's a parent
hmm
to that
Yeah.
tribe.
hmm
So it's basically like, for the tribe, not for yourself.
hmm
I would say, like, maybe I can argue that that kind of mentality can be um portrayed in the society. It could be like a um s- selfish altruism, for you to proliferate, you need this society, so
Exactly.
you need to contribute to this society. Maybe in that way we can transcend and
hmm
that selfishness and actually do something good for the future.
Right. Um, I totally agree. I think we have the potential, and I think we can actually implement it in our society.
Yeah.
hmm
The problem
Uh,
is how.
then back to convenience versus environment.
Yeah.
Um, and Mr. Yo is saying that, and you, Circle, you guys were saying whether we consume can be considered as uh cost
Yeah,
to new
some cost.
technologies, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we use fridges in every house,
Yeah.
and they have free on gas, which is
Not all of them,
harmful.
I think, but yeah.
Well, I used to.
Yeah. CFCs.
That's just a just an example.
Mm-hmm.
So should we then consider like almost every not reusable utensils, or for the like tools for convenience as cost too, because like that can enhance our uh well-being, you know
Yeah,
and
but
can increase our productivity, which probably help development of new technologies for both environment and convenience.
yeah, I think we do need that. We can't change it in a day. Even though we have the technology to do it, we need to transition somehow, like, um, you know, in a government scale,
Uh-huh.
individual scale, global scale. We
Oh,
need
so
to.
my question is, you guys were saying that we have to like reduce using use of disposable tools
We
like
should try
plastic
to. We
forks.
should try to.
We try to,
That's
but what if that improves our productivity? Because it's really, I don't want to waste my time washing dishes every day, like after lunch every day. I'd rather just use paper plates and go back to work and do something productive. That's even more productive. They might be more productive in a company,
yeah,
in the
yeah,
company level.
So that's like what I want to say, like that kind of mindset that
Uh-huh.
the productivity versus the
Right.
idea that environment is no longer a cost factor. Like I think it should be a cost.
yeah,
Like it's something that weighs your decision. And if it's a sunk cost, then we need to just minimize that. There's always alternatives. And
Okay.
I think the idea that you could be more productive. Okay, let's say realistically that, if you use a certain technology that it's bad for the environment, but it still works, it's more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
It,
And we should use that, you're saying.
I would say that, like Sir Cole said, it's very hard to change it in a day. But,
no,
Right.
it's really hard.
once we make the effort to transition as soon as possible, then just allocate resources and actually researching instead of kind of thinking like, oh, this works right now, so let's just stick to it. I think
We
that
can
kind
find a
of
better
change in
way.
mindset.
Mm.
There's always alternatives. There's always
Yeah, at
alternatives.
least we start somewhere. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah, exactly. We just need to start and push for it. That's the hardest step, really, but
Yeah, I think
there's a
starting
kind of
is the
bigger
hardest part,
problem. Right, yeah. It's like
Okay.
the
and
mindset
Mm-hmm.
continue
that's a
doing
problem.
it.
Uh-huh,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's just,
So,
it's
yeah.
just really even now. Like even though I say, you should do that, you should do those. I don't want to do it, right?
Yeah.
It's I don't know. It's just really hard to just transition from this
Uh-huh.
lifestyle to that
Yeah.
in a
I
second.
so I really like your idea of selfish altruism.
Yeah,
You don't even have to be full altruism, but if you even think about your personal kids, their generation, I
yeah,
think it'll be a bit easier to have this mindset. If you just think about your family, then you just want to have them in an environment where they don't have to really worry about, you know, where the environment is sick. Or,
yeah. All the
like,
whales are dying.
yeah. Exactly. So I think if you just start from there, you gotta fake it until you make it. So true altruism is really hard. So maybe selfish altruism, is an intermediate step. I
Yeah,
think I agree there. Yeah, I think that's very reasonable.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you
but
guys have anything else that you guys want to talk about?
I never mind. I don't want to bring it up on this.
Well, you can
No, I think that's
feel
like
free to.
part two kind of thing.
Okay.
This one was the
Okay.
part one
Mm-hmm.
environment.
How about you, Mr. Yo?
Um, I think I made the point kind of
Hmm.
about
Very clearly. Yeah.
yeah. I think the other stuff is like circle said. Like I could probably bring it up in part two.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right, then I guess we can sum up part one.
Yeah.
And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I did. Um, thank you. This was Yellow Socrates. I'm Dr. J.
It's Mr. Yo.
And I'm Circo. See you guys
All right. Yeah. See you guys
next
next time.
time.